This has never happened before in Africa's history. All African presidents, yes, all, just agreed to create a single African government. Is this the beginning of a United States of Africa? The world wasn't ready for this. Breaking news. In a stunning development, African presidents from across the continent have reportedly agreed on a unified vision to form one Africa government. This historic move could reshape geopolitics, trade, and power dynamics forever. What does this mean for Africa's future, Western influence, and the dream of Pan-Africanism? In this video, we break down what was said at the secret summit, which presidents are fully on board, how the African Union is involved, the economic and military consequences for the West, and whether a single currency and army are truly on the table. Could we be witnessing the birth of the United States of Africa? Watch to the end to find out how this bold move will impact the entire continent and the rest of the world. Detailed analysis of African integration and geopolitical developments. 1. What was said at the secret summit? No credible, verifiable reports confirm a specific secret summit involving African leaders discussing a unified currency, continental army, or a United States of Africa as of June 17, 2025. The term secret summit suggests covert high-level talks, but such discussions are more likely to occur within existing frameworks like AU summits, ECOWAS meetings, or bilateral engagements, which are often closed-door but not entirely clandestine. Below, I explore possible contexts and what might have been discussed if such a summit occurred, based on recent trends and historical patterns. Possible contexts: AU summits and regional meetings. The AU holds regular summits, such as the 38th Ordinary Session, February 2025, Addis Ababa, where leaders discuss economic integration, security, and global partnerships. The African Chiefs of Defense Conference, May 30, 2025, Nairobi, focused on African-led security solutions, counterterrorism, and reducing reliance on external powers. These events, while public, include private sessions where sensitive topics like countering Western or Chinese influence could arise. Sub-regional blocs, ECOWAS, SADC, and EAC frequently convene to address regional challenges. For instance, ECOWAS's 2024 emergency meetings on Sahel coups, e.g., Mali, Niger, involved private discussions on regional stability, potentially touching on unified military responses or economic strategies to reduce Western aid dependency. Ad hoc gatherings. Leaders like Nigeria's President Tinubu, South Africa's Ramaphosa, or Kenya's Ruto have hosted informal summits, such as the 2024 BRICS Summit, attended by African observers, or bilateral talks during Trump's May 2025 U.S. visit. These could be mischaracterized as secret if details were withheld. Hypothetical discussions: if a secret summit occurred, it might have focused on economic sovereignty. Leaders may have explored accelerating the African Continental Free Trade Area (AFCFTA) to counter Western economic dominance. Discussions could include harmonizing tariffs, reducing dollar dependency, or countering Trump's threatened 100% tariffs on BRICS nations, exploring de-dollarization. Times of India, June 11, 2025. Security autonomy. With U.S. military drawdowns, e.g., Niger 2024, Somalia awesome funding cuts, FI 2026. Leaders might have discussed expanding the African Standby Force or coordinating counterterrorism without Western support. Mali and Burkina Faso's shift to Russian mercenaries suggests a push for non-Western security models. Geopolitical alignment. The summit could have addressed balancing relations with China, Russia, and the West. For example, China's Belt and Road Initiative and Russia's growing influence in the Sahel. Eurasia Review, June 16, 2025. Contrast with U.S. aid cuts, prompting talks on diversified partnerships. Pan-African vision. Inspired by historical figures like Nkrumah or Gaddafi, leaders might have revisited a federal African state, though practical steps would likely focus on incremental integration, e.g., AFCFTA, joint military exercises. Evidence gaps: no leaks, diplomatic cables, or credible ex-posts substantiate a specific secret summit. Claims of such events often circulate in conspiracy circles or anti-Western narratives, but lack primary sources. Public AU statements, like the June 2025 call for stability amid Israel-Iran tensions, Al Jazeera, June 13, 2025, emphasize diplomacy over covert planning. Without new evidence, this remains speculative. 2. Which presidents are fully on board? Identifying presidents fully on board with a unified African agenda is challenging without summit details, but several leaders actively support AU integration, regional autonomy, or anti-Western self-reliance. Below is a detailed profile of key figures based on their actions, rhetoric, and geopolitical alignment, with caveats on their commitment to a single currency or army. Key leaders: Cyril Ramaphosa, South Africa role, chairs AU initiatives, hosts BRICS summits, and leads Africa's largest economy. Actions: pushes AFCFTA implementation, securing $20 billion in intra-African trade commitments by 2024. His May 2025 meeting with Trump navigated U.S. tariffs while maintaining BRICS ties. News 24, June 12, 2025. Co-chaired the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, FOCAC 2024, balancing Chinese partnerships. Stance: supports economic integration but cautious on political union due to South Africa's regional dominance concerns. Likely open to a single currency if economically viable but uncommitted to a continental army. William Ruto, Kenya role, East African Community, EAC, leader, AU security advocate. Actions: hosted the 2025 African Chiefs of Defense Conference, emphasizing African-led counterterrorism. Supports AWESOME, 11,900 troops in Somalia, and EAC integration, e.g., visa-free travel. Pushes green energy exports to counter Western aid cuts. BBC News, June 14, 2025. Stance: backs regional military cooperation and AFCFTA but prioritizes Kenya's economic interests. Unlikely to support a centralized army without clear benefits. Open to currency discussions within EAC. General Assimi Goita, Mali role. Junta leader post 2020/2021 coups. Sahel influencer. Actions: expelled French and U.S. forces, aligning with Russia's Wagner Group. 2024. Co-founded Alliance of Sahel States, AES, with Niger and Burkina Faso exiting ECOWAS. Echoes Murtala Mohammed's 1976 anti-imperialist rhetoric. Eurasia Review, June 16, 2025. Stance: strong advocate for African self-reliance, likely supportive of a unified military if anti-Western. Currency union interest unclear due to AES focus. Ibrahim Traore, Burkina Faso role, youngest African leader. Junta head post 2022 coup. Actions: accused U.S. of resource exploitation. 2024 ex-posts unverified. Strengthened Russian ties. Importing arms and advisors. AES membership signals regional autonomy push. Stance: anti-Western, pro-African solutions. Likely backs military unity to counter jihadist threats. Currency union less prioritized but feasible if anti-dollar. Bola Tinubu, Nigeria role, ECOWAS chair, leader of Africa's most populous nation. Actions: mediated Sahel coup crises. 2023 to 2024. Hosted West Africa Industrialization Summit, May 27th to 29th, 2025, Lagos. Pushes AFCFTA but faces domestic economic challenges. Naira devaluation. 2024. Stance: supports economic integration but cautious on political or military union due to Nigeria's regional rivalry with South Africa. Open to ECOWAS eco-currency but skeptical of continental scale. Other potential supporters: Abdelmajid Tebboune, Algeria advocates AU peacekeeping and energy exports to Europe, balancing Western and Russian ties. Likely supports economic unity but cautious on military centralization. Paul Kagame, Rwanda EAC integration champion, supports AU missions, e.g. Mozambique. 2021. Pragmatic, unlikely to back a federal state without clear economic gains. Mohamed Al-Menfi, Libya, Presidential Council represents Libya's fragile government, historically tied to Gaddafi's Pan-African vision. Limited influence but open to AU initiatives. Caveats: no leader has publicly endorsed a United States of Africa or a continental army/currency in 2025. Support for integration varies by region and national interest. Anti-Western leaders, Goita, Traore, may align on security but face domestic instability, limiting long-term commitment. Economic powerhouses, Nigeria, South Africa, prioritize national sovereignty, complicating federal ambitions. 3. How is the African Union involved? The AU is the primary vehicle for continental integration, coordinating economic, security, and diplomatic efforts. While no evidence ties it to a secret summit, its public and semi-private activities provide a framework for understanding its role in any unified agenda. Below is a detailed breakdown of AU involvement. Economic integration. AFCFTA, launched January 2021, AFCFTA aims to create a single market for 1.3 billion people with a projected GDP of $3.4 trillion by 2030. By 2025, 47 of 54 Australian dollars members have ratified it, with Eritrea as a notable holdout. Recent progress includes harmonizing 88% of tariff lines, AU report, February 2025, and pilot trading under AFCFTA rules, e.g. Kenya-Ghana exports. 2024. Financial institutions. The AU plans an African Central Bank, ACB, African Monetary Fund, AMF, and Pan-African Stock Exchange by 2030 to 2040. Agenda 2063. These aim to reduce dollar dependency and support a single currency, though progress is slow due to economic disparities, e.g. Nigeria's GDP per capita $2,200 versus Seychelles' $15,000. Summits. The West Africa Industrialization Summit, May 2025, Lagos, and AU Mid-Year Coordination Meeting, July 2024, Accra. Discuss AFCFTA implementation, infrastructure, e.g. Lobito Corridor, and critical mineral strategies to counter Chinese dominance. Security Cooperation Peace and Security Council, PSC. Coordinates AU responses to conflicts, coups, and terrorism. In 2025, PSC oversees AWESOME, Somalia, 11,900 troops from Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Egypt, and Samim, Mozambique, ended 2024. It condemned Sahel coups but struggles to enforce sanctions. African Standby Force, ASF, proposed in 2003. ASF aims for a 25,000-strong rapid response force with 5 regional brigades. By 2025, only the East African Brigade is partially operational. Funding shortages and interoperability issues persist, with African Lion 2025 exercises, 52 nations, Morocco, exposing gaps. Counterterrorism. The AU Center for Counterterrorism, Algiers, coordinates intelligence, but jihadist groups, Al-Shabaab, IS Sahel, exploit U.S. drawdowns. The Sahel accounted for 50% of global terrorism deaths in 2024. The Intercept, June 8, 2025. Diplomatic role. Global advocacy. The AU secured G20 membership 2023 and pushes for UN Security Council reform. 2 permanent seats proposed. Its June 2025 statement on Israel-Iran tensions reflects a unified diplomatic voice. Al Jazeera, June 13, 2025. Non-aligned stance. The AU balances ties with the West, China, and Russia. For example, it critiques U.S. aid cuts but engages China's FOCAC 2024 pledged $51 billion and Russia's Africa Summit 2023. African solutions. The principle of African solutions to African problems drives AU policy, as seen in rejecting Western mediation in Sahel coups and prioritizing regional peacekeeping. Potential secret involvement. If a secret summit occurred, the AU's Executive Council or a select committee, e.g., PSC, might have facilitated it. Private discussions could address countering U.S. tariffs or sanctions, e.g., Trump's BRICS threats, coordinating Russian or Chinese security investments to replace Western bases, planning a currency roadmap despite global financial risks. Such talks would likely involve AU heavyweights, Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Algeria, but exclude pro-Western states, e.g., Morocco. 4. Economic and military consequences for the West. Economic consequences. Trade disruption. AFCFTA impact. By 2030, AFCFTA could reduce Africa's trade reliance on the West by 15 to 20%. Brookings, May 27, 2025. Intra-African trade rose from 12% 2015 to 17% 2024, squeezing EU exports, e.g., France's Sahel market share fell 25% post-coups. De-dollarization. A single currency, if realized, could challenge dollar dominance in Africa's $500 billion trade market. Trump's tariff threats. 2025. Target BRICS de-dollarization, risking retaliatory African tariffs on U.S. goods, $40 billion annually. Resource access. Critical minerals. Africa supplies 60% of global cobalt, DRC, 40% of uranium, Niger, Namibia, and 30% of lithium. A unified economic bloc could impose export quotas or favor Chinese firms, as seen in DRC's 2024 deals. $3 billion infrastructure for minerals. Energy markets. Algeria and Nigeria's gas exports to Europe, 20% of EU imports, face competition from U.S. LNG. A coordinated African energy policy could raise prices, impacting EU inflation, 4.2% projected 2025. Investment losses. Western firms, U.S. and EU companies, e.g., Chevron, Total Energies, invested $200 billion in African energy, 2015 to 2024. Political shifts, e.g., Mali's junta audits and Chinese competition, $70 billion loans 2020 to 2025, threaten returns. Aid leverage. U.S. aid cuts, e.g., $1.5 billion peacekeeping eliminated FI 2026, reduced soft power, pushing African nations toward China's no-strings loans or Russia's security deals. Military consequences. Security vacuum. Sahel instability. U.S. withdrawal from Niger, 2024, 1,000 troops, and France's base closures. Chad, Senegal 2024, embolden IS Sahel and JNIM. Terrorism deaths in Mali rose 30% 2023 to 2024, threatening regional trade routes. The Intercept, June 8, 2025. Somalia risks. Awesome's funding cuts. U.S. share $400 million pre-2026. Weaken 11,900 troops against Al-Shabaab, which conducted 200 attacks in 2024. Instability could disrupt Red Sea shipping, $1T annually. Competing powers. China operates a naval base in Djibouti, trains 10,000 African troops annually. FOCAC 2024. Plans a second base in Equatorial Guinea. 2025 rumors unconfirmed. Russia, Wagner Group, now Africa Corps, supports juntas in Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, with 5,000 personnel. 2024 estimate. Supplies arms to Sudan, Libya, escalating conflicts. Turkey, UAE, drone exports and bases, e.g., Somalia, Niger, expand non-Western influence, reducing NATO's strategic depth. Western military posture. Base closures. U.S. retains Camp Lemonnier, Djibouti, for 1,000 troops, but faces local protests. France's 1,500 troops in Gabon and Ivory Coast are under scrutiny post-Sahel exits to AFRICOM. General Langley's burden sharing 2025 shifts responsibility to African forces, but ASF's unreadiness risks prolonged U.S. drone operations, e.g., Somalia, 500 strikes 2024. NATO, reduced African access weakens NATO's southern flank, complicating Mediterranean security amid Iran-Russia alignment. 5. Are a single currency and army truly on the table? Single currency AU vision. Agenda 2063 targets a single currency by 2040, supported by the ACB and AMF. AFCFTA's trade harmonization, 88% tariffs aligned 2025, is a prerequisite, reducing transaction costs, currently $10 billion annually. Regional efforts. ECOWAS ECO, planned for 2020, delayed to 2027 due to fiscal misalignment, e.g., Nigeria's Naira volatility. Only 5 of 15 ECOWAS states meet convergence criteria. Deficit less than 3%, inflation less than 10%. AC shilling. Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania aim for a 2024 relaunch, stalled by Rwanda's withdrawal fears and South Sudan's instability. Challenges. Economic gaps. GDP per capita ranges from $500 Burundi to $20,000 Mauritius. Harmonizing monetary policy is near impossible without fiscal union. Political resistance. Nigeria and South Africa fear losing currency control, Naira, Rand. Smaller states worry about dominant economies. External risks. Trump's 2025 tariff threats target de-dollarization and IMF loans, $120 billion to Africa 2020 to 2025, impose dollar-based conditions. Feasibility. Stability. A single currency is a long-term goal, 20 to 30 years, with regional currencies, eco, shilling, as interim steps. No secret summit evidence suggests accelerated plans. Continental Army African Standby Force, ASF, envisioned as 25,000 troops across 5 regional brigades, ECOWAS, EAC, SADC, ECAS, NARC. Only EAC's brigade conducted a 2024 exercise, 1,200 troops. Funding, AU covers 10%, donors 90%, US, EU pre-2025. Current missions, awesome, 11,900 troops in Somalia, funded by AU, $100 million, EU, $200 million pre-2026, and UN. Faces collapse post-US cuts. Samim, SADC's Mozambique mission, 2,000 troops, 2021 to 2024, ended due to funding and Rwanda's bilateral intervention. Challenges, logistics, differing military standards, e.g., Nigeria's 10,000 active troops versus Eritrea's conscript-based force, hinder interoperability. Funding, AU's $2 billion peacekeeping budget, 2025, relies on external donors. Self-funding requires economic growth or resource taxes, e.g., 0.2% import levy, $500 million annually. Politics, regional rivalries, e.g., Algeria-Morocco, Nigeria-South Africa, and coups, 6 since 2020, undermine trust. Feasibility, a unified army is aspirational. ASF may achieve partial readiness by 2030, but a centralized force requires political federation, unlikely without economic unity. African Lion 2025, 3,000 troops, 52 nations, shows progress in joint training. 6. Could we be witnessing the birth of the United States of Africa? The United States of Africa, a vision articulated by Kwame Nkrumah 1957 and later Muammar Gaddafi 2000s, envisions a federal state with a unified government, economy, and military. While AFCFTA, ASF, and AU diplomacy signal integration, a federal Africa faces insurmountable hurdles. Below is a detailed assessment. Progress toward integration economic. AFCFTA's 17% intra-African trade share 2024 and planned institutions ACB, AMF mirror early U.S. federalization, e.g. U.S. Mint 1792. Cross-border projects like the Lobito Corridor, Angola-Zambia DRC, $5 billion U.S.-China funded 2024, enhanced connectivity, security, AU missions, Somalia, Mozambique, and joint exercises, African Lion, show collective defense capacity akin to U.S. militias pre-1787. The PSC's conflict mediation, e.g., Sudan 2023, builds diplomatic cohesion. Political, the AU's Pan-African Parliament, Midrand, South Africa, has 255 members but lacks legislative power, unlike the U.S. Congress. G20 membership 2023 gives Africa a global voice. Barriers political fragmentation. Coups, 6 since 2020, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Sudan, Guinea, destabilize governance. The AU suspended Mali but struggles to enforce democracy, e.g. Goita's 2025 extension. Authoritarianism. Leaders like Kagame, Rwanda, and Museveni, Uganda, extend terms, prioritizing national power over continental unity. Regional rivalries. Nigeria-South Africa compete for AU leadership. Algeria-Morocco tensions block Maghreb integration. Economic disparity. GDP variation. Nigeria, $477 billion GDP. Dwarfs Somalia, $8 billion. A federal economy requires